Hello and welcome back to the Job Not Done podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Hogan. If you've never seen this podcast before, I'm here to give you the upper hand, to give you the advantage, to make sure you're on your way to becoming the 1%. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to help you do those three things, but through the life of someone else. Not just me today. Today we have D1 athlete, or future athlete, I should say, Kyle Hogan. He's going to be a running back at Drake in the fall. And so we're going to look into some insight, look at what his life's like, and what kind of challenges he faced on his way to becoming a D1 athlete. So, Kyle, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, sir. So I kind of want to start this off, just get this started right off the bat. So I think a lot of people see athletes at face value, they see them
Right.
on the surface. But what are some of the things, what are the sacrifices, or what are the things that people didn't see behind the journey to becoming a D1 athlete?
Right. Well, you know, you don't really know where you're gonna go, right? So my sophomore year, I transferred to Vianney, and I didn't have much of a idea of where I was gonna go play football. I know I wanted to go play college football, but I didn't know where I was gonna go. I didn't really know what was going on. I was still developing as a person and an athlete. And I guess from my sophomore year to now, the biggest thing is just the work behind the scenes and the mental side of it. So the work behind the scenes, all that lifting, all that sprinting,
Of course,
all that stuff, it all builds up to make you a better athlete. But the big part is the mental part, right? You get an injury and you have to deal with it. You have coaches that call you soft if you don't want to practice
right?
that day.
Yeah, of course.
And there's just a lot of elements that go into it. And I feel like if you're an athlete and you can't get the mental part down, you're gonna struggle and you're not gonna be able to go to the next level like you want to.
Right.
So
I think that's like a big thing for especially non-athletes too, is like
yeah,
even if you're in a tough field, like in a hard place in the business field, right? Having that mental fortitude, that mental
yeah.
discipline to get the job done is really key.
Anywhere you go in life, there's gonna be adversity and you're gonna have to overcome that
Exactly.
adversity. And I think being able to deal with that is the biggest lesson I've learned so far in my development. So
Yeah. Of course, embrace the adversity, go through the adversity.
right.
So on a athletic level, what is something that separates the athletes, you, from the athletes who don't make it, the athletes who do make it, who don't
Mm.
make it, right? What does that kind of distinguishment between those two people look like in the context of your situation as a D1 future D1 football player?
Yeah, and that's a good question because throughout high school especially, there's going to be two different types of kids. There's going to be one, the kids that are just there because they want to be on the team,
Mhm.
and then there's going to be two, kids like me. I have a bunch of friends that are going to play college football,
Of course,
and
yeah,
you can all tell that they want it, right? They're there for the extra hours. They're working out. They're not being soft on the football field, right? There's just a mindset to it that really separates those two type of people. And I feel like that mental side again is where it draws the line, right? There's those kids that could be talented and they could have, good athletic ability, but if they don't have the mental hard work or the mental toughness to be able to get through those hard things, then they're not going to make it. And that's kind of what separates those two type of people.
right. And I think especially with Kyle here, you have to have the mindset, and you can have the talent every day of the week, but it's the mindset, it's the discipline that gets things done. And that's what separates you from, the ordinary. And that's how you become the 1%. And Kyle is a perfect example of that. So, and then another thing that comes with, committing time to something, committing time to football is sacrifices,
Yep.
right? And we make a lot of
Yep.
sacrifices throughout life. What are some of the sacrifices for those out there who maybe are looking to get into a sport or just anything? What are the sacrifices that you made to bring your game to the next level?
Well, the first thing I'd say is the time, right? Anything you want to be good at, it's going to take time. You're going to have to put work in. And if you're not spending time somewhere else, right, you're spending time doing your work. So
Of
it's
course.
going to take time away from whatever you like doing outside of that. And, you know, sacrifices, it's a good topic that you brought up because I'll give you an example here. I started tracking my food about 2 years ago, and because I just wanted to have better body comp, right? I wanted to be a better athlete on the field. But even with things as small as tracking your food, there's going to be sacrifices with it,
Right.
right?
Of course.
You can't eat out to dinner with your family or with your friends or with your girlfriend's family, like you have to track all that stuff. And it might make other people upset. Your parents might get mad at you because you have to weigh every gram of every piece of chicken,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's the shit you got to deal with if you want to be the best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I think that's really the big sacrifice I've made is just being able to deal with how other people think about you, right? So,
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially with, it's the food example, right? Being able to have that discipline to eat the things that you actually need to or the things that you're not supposed to, and
mhm,
kind of dealing with that in moderation, especially if it's in an environment. Most people they go out to eat, they don't really care as much about their macros. They don't care about kind of what they're tracking, or at least they don't try to, right? And I think for those wanting to be, an athlete out there or have specific fitness goals, right? Track your food, get your macros in, and sometimes it's gonna suck, but you gotta do it. But at the end of the day, it'll feel better if you start doing it. So another thing that I wanted to get in, another topic I wanted to talk about is your transition actually from baseball to football.
yeah,
Um, so you were a really talented baseball player from what you told me, and then there was this hard shift from football, right? So like as a person, what made you changed kind of your mindset like, "Hey,
yeah,
baseball is not my thing anymore. I want to become a football player."
yeah. So let me just give you a little background here. So when I was in middle school, I loved baseball. You played baseball. Um, but I loved playing baseball and I was actually quite good at it. And I stuck with it. Every summer I was out on the travel team with my team, competing at the highest level. And then I got to high school and I started competing, and I was still really good compared to every other freshman that played baseball. So I ended my freshman year, first team all conference. Um, and that was a big thing for me. And, you know, I guess what really shifted me from baseball to football is baseball, I was in my comfort zone all the time.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I just felt like no matter what I did, I wasn't getting that full fulfillment,
of
that you
course.
want when you're
Yeah,
doing something like that.
yeah,
And I just I feel like football gave me that fulfillment that baseball didn't. And it also got me out of my comfort zone, right? Football is a hard sport, physically demanding, mentally
of
demanding,
course. Yeah,
and I think that's really what drew me to the game. I actually started playing football in 8th grade, and from there on, I was like, man, I love this sport, and I just wanted to
yeah,
give more of my time to it. So that's kind of why, because I just wanted more.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think that is a really, really important point is that when we are in our comfort zones, we get complacent, we don't challenge ourselves, we don't grow as people, especially in the context of Kyle, like he pushed himself outside those comfort zones, like physically, like football is more physically demanding and mentally, learning the playbook, learning the plays, understanding the routes, right? So in life, you have to become uncomfortable. You have to become non-complacent and you have to push yourself to the next level.
right. And just to add on to that, I feel like football as a sport didn't just help me on the athletic field, right? Like with just, memorizing plays and stuff and, getting through hard practices. But what it really helped me with is the mental side outside of sports, right? Being tough, doing the things you don't want to do, even if it's, some shitty things, right? And throughout life, I guess this made me realize that there's always going to be things you don't want to do. But if you really look deep into it, it's going to help you in the long
Exactly.
run, right?
Yeah.
So,
Digging deep is the most important thing. And that's where true growth is. And that's where you find your purpose, right? For Kyle, that was his purpose, right? His calling, his passion, and to become a better athlete, better student. And there are lessons you can take from the field, the football field, the gridiron that you can apply to life. It doesn't just apply to sports, it applies to pretty much everything
right.
in life,
Yep.
especially if you want to become the best at what you do or you just want to get 1% better every day.
Yeah. You're never going to grow if you're not outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So the last thing I want to ask you, and I think this is kind of the most important thing,
Right.
right? If football didn't exist tomorrow, um, would you still have that same mindset? Would you still have the same approach to life?
This is a good question that I kind of been asking myself. Because there's been times throughout my football career that I was like, man, I don't know. Like, am I gonna be able to play in college? Am I good enough? Am I gonna get injured? All these things that run through my head. But I don't know where my mindset came from. I don't know if I had it before football, or I don't know if football shaped that for me. I know football definitely uh, improved me as a person,
Of course. Yeah.
and I think that if football wasn't here right now for me, that mindset to get more, I'd find it somewhere else, right? I'd get
Mhm.
out of my comfort zone
Yeah.
and try to grow as a person and do something that fulfills me. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think, there are certain things that we take for granted in life. And hence why I asked the question, right? For me, right, it's running and finding a purpose through running, right? For Kyle, it's football. And the thing is if we don't have those things didn't exist. What is the real test? What is the real show of whether or not you've grown as a person or you, always push yourself is
yeah,
you apply yourself in the same way no matter what you're doing.
yep,
Yeah. So, I appreciate you coming on,
yeah,
man.
no
It's
problem.
awesome. I love
Yeah,
that insight, bro.
yeah, it was great. It's
That's
great
great.
being on, talking about my life a little bit. But yeah, I think the main takeaway from my life that I've learned is get outside your comfort zone, do things you don't want to do, and that's how you're gonna grow, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course, of course.
yep.
You heard it straight from Kyle himself. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. Any criticism is necessary and much appreciated. The work's not done, and that's because the job's not done. I'll see you later. Peace.